Hey guys, welcome back to the channel McNallie Money, the new home of power mining analysis. In today's episode, Anthony Power and I are going to be discussing DMG, HUD 8, Wulf, and IREN. So we've got a stacked schedule, but before we get into it, please take a second, hit the like button, you guys. It's a big help to myself and the channel. If you're not already subscribed, McNallie Money, feel free to join, and let us know in the comment section below which of these four companies you're holding, why, and your price targets heading into halving in April. Now with that being said, let's get into today's update. Okay guys, so that's right. Today's video, we're going to be covering four publicly traded miners. It's a big Friday for news. We wanted to end the week off in style. We've got Anthony Power back in action. And speaking of style, Anthony, our new hats just came in, Power Mining Analysis. So you guys leave a comment in the section below. We can get you a hat or a shirt, and you guys can start to rep power mining in your own local community there. Now, Anthony, how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing good, Bryce. Yeah, all good.
Productive week?
It's been a busy week this week. I'm looking forward to the weekend, and then we've got a busy week next week.
Yeah, it sure has been. Big highlights this week were Hive, obviously, and Matt Schultz from CleanSpark were on the channel, so make sure you guys check that out. And then coming up after the first week of March there, we've got Riot, and then that's going to be followed up by Bit Digital in terms of interviews. So if you guys are holding Riot or Bit Digital, you've got some questions for management, make sure you leave those in the comment section below. That'll be the first or second week of March. Now, Anthony, in terms of today's news, let's kick it off with DMG Blockchain. They just announced some news in relation to a credit facility or a Bitcoin-backed loan. So why don't you walk us through that and what that really enables DMG to do now?
Yeah, so I mean, good update today from DMG. They've managed to partner with Signal Official, which are a Swiss finance facility there. They've secured 9 million credit loan to enhance their operational capacity ahead of the halving. So they're doing exactly what we've been saying for months now on our podcast about getting prepared for the halving with those most efficient machines. The funding's going to be used to acquire just over 4,500 T21. So they're the latest Bitmain ASIC miners, and they have a power of 190 terahash a second. And, it's going to be, we're waiting for news from DMG because, they didn't manage to grow significantly in 2023, but they've announced they want to grow in 2024 now. So this is a good update. They've already received some of the funds from this credit facility. And by getting those funds early, it meant they didn't have to start selling their Bitcoin. I mean, they've got, I think, 458 Bitcoin last time I looked. I think that's worth about 20 million. At the end of January the 31st, we know the Bitcoin price today, still hovering around that 52,000 mark. So they're not having to, sell their hodl at the moment. They've used, careful planning, got a loan, and supported that loan with the Bitcoin. The CEO Sheldon Bennett, who we've had on the channel, he sees the leverage of the debt as a means to optimizing their balance sheet. So having, less debt on the balance sheet while maintaining, that healthy Bitcoin reserve, and therefore, lowering the average cost of capital. But it's a good update for DMG, and let's see where we go from there.
Yeah, totally. No, nice to see some funding in place, and obviously a big help towards that growth strategy. Now, the next company we've got for you is HUD 8 Corporation. They've been under the microscope recently, Anthony. A lot of news coming out, a lot of chatter on the forums about HUD 8, the new direction under Asher Janut. Now, we got some news from them today. I would say pretty positive news from HUD 8. Do you want to walk us through that one as well?
Yeah, I mean, it was news that's been out there already, but basically what they've done is they've now closed the contracts now for the transaction they were to acquiring these 4 gas plants in Ontario, Canada. They're in partnership with Macquarie Equipment Finance Limited, who are a subsidiary of the Macquarie Group, and they're a big global financial services company. So the partner with those, the split at the moment is HUT have 80% of the contract and Macquarie have 20% of the contract. And you're quite right. The new CEO, Ashkan, they've looked at this, evaluated a range of options. And having these assets looks like it's going to be a good way moving forward. Having that that energy part of their diversification as well. So it's 4 facilities in Kingston, Iroquois Falls, Capels Casing, and North Bay. And we know North Bay was where the Validus was their previous energy provider, so they've got that facility. And so they need this sort of like update out today. There's been a lot of questions about HUT performance-wise. It's been a challenge, but we're seeing some news coming out now, which might help put maybe some of the investors' minds at ease that they're going in a certain direction. They're diversified. They've got the HPC business up and running. They've now got energy as a part of their business as well. Massive hosting business, and their self-mining is 7.2, which puts them clearly in that sort of like that mid-tier bracket, with the likes of your TeraWulfs and your Iris Energies and your Bitfarms. So along some good peer miners there. But we want to see the production increase. HUT before the merger has had a challenging couple of years in terms of production per month. Now we'll hopefully see that improve. So we look forward to seeing the next few months updates to see if they're back on track.
Yeah, that's going to be one we're watching closely. And in light of all the price action with Bitcoin this week, all the news with the companies here, Anthony and I have both been making some trades in our personal accounts. We do document those in Patreon as well, you guys. So if you want a little bit more access, some behind the scenes access to Anthony and our portfolio, I would definitely encourage you guys to take a look at the Patreon as well. Now, Anthony, we're going to get into IREN earnings at the end of the podcast here, but before we do, TeraWulf came out with another really positive announcement today, increasing their self-mining capacity. They were also able to make a big debt payment, $22 million pay down on their debt. So price of Bitcoin, obviously a huge benefit to the entire industry, not only for market cap, share price, but also the free cash flow that these companies are throwing off now, and the ability and the flexibility that provides in terms of the balance sheet and getting their debt in order before halving. So I'll flip it over to you, Anthony. TeraWulf, big fan following. So Wolfpack, let us know in the comment section below what you thought of this news. And Anthony, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, these are the updates that we wanted to hear from TeraWulf. If there was ever a sort of like a challenge to, the company as it's standing at the moment, it was about the size of the debt on the balance sheet. And it's an area they are starting to address now. Unfortunately, with the Bitcoin price at the moment, they can address that problem quicker than maybe they plan to, because, the price of over 50,000 gives them a bit of maneuverability. So yes, they've announced they've repaid or made repayments totaling 40 million in prior weeks to today, and their debt at the moment is just slightly north of 100 million in total. If you look at what they're mining their Bitcoin, they've got one of the best cost to mine a Bitcoin of all the miners. Their energy rates are very, very well documented as lower than most of the pack of miners, to coin a phrase. So at the moment, they're mining Bitcoin for about 25,000 cash cost. So if you look at today's price of 52,000, that gives them a 27,000 per Bitcoin margin to play with. And if you look at how many Bitcoin they're mining a day, and you've just alluded to the fact that they've grown their hash rate. So at the moment they're at 7.6 exahash, soon to be 7.9, and by the end of Q2 that'll be 10. But if we just take at the moment, what they were operating in January, and look at what that could look like for February, and apply the sort of like a difficulty factor that came in a couple of days ago, about 8%. It still means that TeraWulf, with their latest hash rate, should be close to 13 Bitcoin a day, and that gives them about $670,000 a day. Now, bear in mind the cost of mining the Bitcoin is about 25,000. So to mine that amount of Bitcoin a day is about 320,000, and that gives them close to 350,000 pounds of extra margin to play with, and multiply that by a month, and you're into 10 million. So there is an opportunity here, and they've already alluded to in their update that they're going to make another payment in April. So I foresee if the Bitcoin price can stay at the sort of 50,000 plus mark that might give them, another decent amount to pay off that debt. And like, Bitfarms have done over the last 18 months, they're down to like 2 million in debt, and that debt will be paid off in February. Hopefully we'll see TeraWulf attack the debt in the same vein as Bitfarms, because not only then is it making their balance sheet stronger, it's reducing those interest payments, because we know that not everyone's going to get loans like DMG have just managed to acquire at 7.9. I know a whole string of miners who are sort of like paying high teens, so 18, 19, 20% on loans on the balance sheet. So I'm not saying TeraWulf are paying that amount, but they won't be paying 7.9. That's a really good rate from TeraWulf. But it's still interest payments. You can get that capital amount down, it reduces the interest payments, and it's a sort of like a win-win, and the balance sheet gets strengthened. That's really the only sort of criticism I have of TeraWulf at the moment, is the fact that they've got a significant amount of debt, but they are addressing it, and that was a good update. 40 million repayments in the last few weeks, and with a potential, with a promise to pay another payment, at the time of the halving as well, should get them in a good position and strengthen that balance sheet further than it is at the moment. But we see good things from TeraWulf this year. 10 exahash by the halfway points in the year. That's going to put them just outside the sort of like the top 3 or 4 miners. Probably on a par with what Iris Energy are trying to achieve. So 10 exahash being that sort of like a target for those mid-tier miners to get to. We're looking at Bitfarms also to get to sort of that 10, 12 exahash in short term. And yeah, it's that's a good update for investors today, because I know a lot of people have been writing on social media about the size of the debt. Are they going to repay that down? They've done exactly what they've said. I mean, they do communicate very well, TeraWulf, with their shareholders. The CEO gives regular updates, and he hasn't sort of let them down yet. So let's keep a watchful eye on TeraWulf as we go through to the halving. I'm sure there's more positive things to come.
Yeah, really good to see. And I see in the press release here, Anthony, it does say they expect to make another significant debt repayment in early April based on the free cash flow. So yeah, that's definitely nice to see them taking that one seriously. Now, another mid-tier miner, right, hovering around that 10 exahash, that elusive double digits, is IREN Energy. Now, these guys have rebranded to IREN. So they've actually rebranded to the same name as their ticker symbol. In addition to that, they just came out with earnings. So Anthony, I'll pass it over to you to walk us through some of the highlights there. But another great company we've been following for quite some time, and pushing towards that 10 and then eventually 20 exahash milestone, eh?
Yeah, I mean, it was if you go into the figures, and I've just started to go through the figures, I won't go into massive detail today, but if you look at the sort of like from a high level perspective, and we did talk about the fact that some miners will benefit from the new FASB rules. And what we mean by that is those miners that have got Bitcoin on the balance sheet will have the ability in the latest earnings updates to actually show the revaluation of Bitcoin. So where you've had a hodl that's been reducing in value because the Bitcoin price has been going down, and you're not able to turn that around when the Bitcoin price goes up. The FASB rules now state that you are allowed to, show the true value of the Bitcoin on the balance sheet. So as we saw with Core Scientific, they had a net income of, I think it was like 25 million, but they had a benefit of about 36 million of revaluation to their Bitcoin. So if they hadn't had that revaluation, they would have had a net loss for the quarter. So it was a bonus for them, and it will be a bonus for other miners coming through with their earnings. But in IREN Energy's case, it's they don't have a hodl, so they sell their Bitcoin on a daily basis, so they weren't able to benefit from that, and they did have a small loss in the last 3 months of 2023. But actually, the results at the moment are okay. I mean, if you look at it from a margin perspective, their gross margin for the last quarter was 60.2%. CleanSpark's was 60.8%. So on a par with CleanSpark. There were some additional operating costs. So there was more legal costs and professional fees this month. But they're still able to sort of mine a Bitcoin at around about the 26,000 mark. Now, we just talked about TeraWulf, leading the pack, in terms of, with their cheap energy, and they were able to do it for 25,000. So just over 26,000, heading toward 27,000. It's not, it's not a massive difference. And we know that there's no debt on IREN Energy's balance sheet anymore. So they've managed to navigate this last 12 months, using their Bitcoin to pay for operational and capital expenses. They've also used their at-the-market offering, had a 500 million at-the-market offering, so they've made good use of that there. And, people are saying, well, they should tell us when they're diluting the shares. Well, they do announce when they're doing these market offerings. All the companies, that are on the NASDAQ have to inform the SEC when they're issuing these share offerings. And they do put the information out there, and we will try to get that information out there for the general public to sort of see that as well. But I was aware most of the miners are using their ability to dilute shares because debt at the moment is significantly high, and DMG have got a really good deal, but not every miner can get that sort of deal. So using your share capital to raise funds to grow. And if you think about IREN Energy, they grew with the biggest percentage in 2023 of all the North American miners. So they outperformed everyone in terms of growth percentage. And they've got to the start of this year, they're at 6.2 at the moment. They're going to get to 10 by the middle of the year. They've got orders to get to 11, options to get to 20 by the end of the year. So, it's really positive. But we haven't even talked about the latest deal they've got, in terms of growing their HPC AI business. And a few months ago, we articulated on the podcast that they purchased 10 million worth of GPUs, the NVIDIA 100 GPUs. Well, they just announced this week that they've gone and purchased another 22 million GPUs to bolster their existing infrastructure. And this really is because they're getting more customer demand for the AI cloud services, and so they feel that this is an area they can go into. It's not correlated to the price of Bitcoin. It's got good revenues. It's got low costs. So it's really appealing. And initially when there was only one or two miners looking at this, now there's probably close to half the North American miners looking at the HPC space. Yes, you're going to have the likes of Marathon, probably Riot and CleanSpark, and Core Scientific, the big three that will stay as Bitcoin miners because of the nature of the size they are. But for some of the other miners, the halving is going to be a challenge, and having these funds that are uncorrelated to the price of Bitcoin is going to be a real benefit for them. And we'll look forward to seeing at the end of February when BitDigital announced their first full month with their HPC contract, and see what that brings into the company as opposed to what the mining brings into the company as well. So, we wait for a couple of more weeks to get that information. And IREN Energy have just literally said the same. They're getting that same demand to grow, like BitDigital have had to grow, even in the short space of time since they announced they were going into HPC. They've grown, they've got a 50 million contract. And I'd expect to see some big numbers coming through from IREN Energy to support that 32 million investment in chips themselves. And that's not even talking about the facilities that those chips go into. Now, they do say, IREN Energy, that the actual it takes 2 years to get to actually get the return on these chips, whereas with mining machines, the ASIC machines, that can be done in a quicker space of time. But we've talked about the fact that it's not correlated to Bitcoin price. There's a more sort of like known revenues, known costs. They know the sort of like the energy required, and it's actually really profitable. I mean, we're talking in excess, I think 90% margins for this sort of service. So once those machines paid off, it's really good rates coming into the company. So I can see the benefits some of these miners are going down this route just to give them that security. But yeah, I mean, we keep saying good updates are coming out, but they're coming out quick and fast before the halving, and it's interesting. I mean, the share price last night, had a bit of a up and down moment for a couple of hours. I know probably a lot of shareholders, I think it dropped close to, in the low $5 range, but then it's back up to, I think it was up to above $7 today. Analysts who follow IREN Energy, so the JP Morgans of this world and the HD Cartwrights of this world, they're still saying that the company, is in a good position and with plenty further to grow. So, these people, spend their days doing a lot more analysis than maybe the likes of, me and you. But, we're out here giving this news today, and it's a good update.
Yeah, I definitely thought so too. It is interesting seeing a lot of these mid-tier miners getting into that AI HPC, and no wonder Nvidia stock is over $700, hitting all-time highs now. These guys are just pumping the money over there for the Nvidia chips, but that's great. I was going to comment on price action too. I believe IREN was down about 15% or even more this morning, and a pretty nice comeback. It's looking like it might be a green Friday here. Hopefully nice end of the week. I'm going to Cancun in a couple weeks, Anthony. I got to rent some jet skis for me and the kids, so I'm hoping to have some pocket money down there. You a big jet skier, Anthony?
No.
Not a lot of jet skis? Well, maybe after this Bitcoin bull run, you and me can go out there, yeah. Anyways, great way to end the week. Appreciate the insight as always, Anthony. A lot of good updates. Like you said, they're coming fast and furious before the halving, and we're here to cover them for you guys. So thanks for watching. It's been a blast. If you're still here, hit the like button, you guys. It's free to do. It's a big help. Let us know in the comment section below which of these companies you're holding, why, and what you thought about the news. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, McNallie Money, feel free to do so. Anthony, thanks so much. Have a great weekend, buddy.
And yourself, Bryce. Have a good one.